We'll bring Marlo on here in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, he'll be here.
I think his new home is Vegas right
Viva
now.
Las Vegas.
Yeah. So anyway, they had the big marathon there, 40,000 runners.
Whoa.
This weekend. And I asked Marlo if he was participating, and he said he ran his own marathon, I guess. I'll have to ask him about that.
It's great to hear that the city is getting on with it after everything that happened.
It is. They just moved the location. They were going to have it at Mandalay Bay where they would start the marathon, but they moved it about a mile north. No, I guess security obviously was really solid there, but
they're my boys.
Nothing bad happened, so thank God for that. Well, hey, this is Rockin Dave Blair coming to you on the Tech Ranch on a beautiful Monday morning. Blue skies and nice temperatures for the time being. But, hey, I've been thinking about this program a little bit over the last couple of weeks when I found out Marlo wanted me to host it. And like I said, we'll have him on to talk a little bit about some of the cool things that's happening in his world down in Vegas. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of address today is called smart cities. And, I think sometimes that's kind of a hard question to answer. And I'm going to try to get into some more details about really what is a smart city. I know that our Governor Burgum is working on Main Street initiatives out there, which is probably pretty similar to what smart cities or smart communities are looking at. But really, it started off with a lot of these municipalities embracing this concept. But the definition of the term and examples was technology is being used to make smart cities run the gamut. Mayors in cities and CIOs, chief information officers, usually talk about using sensors, wireless management, street lights, and traffic signals to lower energy costs, and we'll get more into details on that. That can provide specific returns and investments for such initiatives. There's other examples, including using sensors to monitor water main leaks, therefore reducing main repair costs, or to monitor air quality for air pollution levels, which would yield information that would help people with asthma plan their days. We see that a lot in China right now, that they have these days where they don't want you to go out or you have to wear a mask, and thank God we haven't come to that point here, and I don't believe we will in North Dakota because of our air quality standards that we have, but that's not always the case in a lot of other communities. The other thing that's pretty interesting is police can use video sensors to manage crowds or spot crimes. And, we were just talking about the marathon happening in Vegas this weekend. And, I think you're going to see more and more security and these sensors being used to determine even what's happening in parking lots, and a message to street signs to direct drivers to other lots. So you're going to see some amazing things happening here. Here's some fun information about smart cities. In Bristol, England, a custom-built infra sensor system was added to street lamps for a few weeks in late 2014 to record the shadows of pedestrians walking by. Therefore, the shadows were then projected back through the street lights for others walking by later to see. I don't know about the shadow. I don't know if I want to see my shadow too many times. But anyway, we can have some fun with some of these new technologies. The ultimate goal for smart cities are power management, reducing pollution footprints, increasing public safety, or even offering improved services to residents. The downside that it takes investment infrastructure, and most cities don't have a lot of extra dollars to invest. But it's coming in small steps and in many places. And I think what we want to do is sometime have the planning director and the CIO from maybe the city of Bismarck get on, talk a little bit about what they see happening with our city. When we do infrastructure projects, we got to keep a lot of things in mind of the future. It's not just 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, it's even 50 years. So maybe I can just give you a few examples of city technology use. You know, we talk about data and analytics, machine learning, Internet of Things, and big data. These are common buzzwords that can be found everywhere when discussing small cities' technology use. What do they mean practically? I want to talk about 4 examples that we can discuss in making cities and governments smarter. Not sure if we can make government smart. Well, I hope we can make government smarter. It's a challenge.
Where's Will Rogers when we need him?
Exactly. So we have the multimodal transportation, and you've heard this on Tech Ranch, talking about the intermodal and the transportation network, how much it's changing. And in fact, Marlo's going to talk a little bit about that in this next segment. But a smart city is one that will reduce vehicle traffic and allow people and goods to move efficiently, and I guess that's to say that we all want that. The ability to do this better is a recap of cheap sensors and cameras to collect data about the movement of people. Intelligent traffic systems are an example of this, and the achievement of autonomous vehicle transportation would be a prime example of success for a smart city, as this could reduce vehicle-related deaths. All these efforts would reduce pollution, time stuck in traffic, and results in healthier population. Technologies include induction loops with cellular capabilities and smart cameras and laser sensors, and a lot of that is being already used today. I think the big issue that we have in regards to smart cities is looking at the infrastructure. From energy to water, the ability to analyze big amounts of data will lead to better city planning and development of public works resources for maintenance. For example, testing for lead content in water in real time could prevent health issues like the ones that had ravaged Flint, Michigan. And in fact, we take a lot of this stuff for granted. We take that fresh water for granted, and knowing that we have it, and and then you have a issue that comes up in Flint, Michigan, that really brings it to the forefront. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the different smart cities regarding land use planning and then services. But in the meantime, we're going to welcome Marlo here in the next segment, and he's got some exciting stuff to share with all of us. So stand by, and we'll look forward to hearing us back here in a few minutes.
Currently 35.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or TheTechRanch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
Well, Marlo, I'm just trying to do a good job of substituting for you this morning, Rockin Dave Blair. But it's always interesting when there's new technologies that are happening, and one of the ones was this shuttle crash that happened in Vegas, and I was looking at some of the information that was shared about this, the first autonomous shuttle to operate on public roads, and our Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson, just happened to be on that shuttle. Did you cause the crash?
Well, the rumor is that I was not on the shuttle at that time. And I'm just going to leave it at that, Dave.
Okay. Well, knowing the way that you like to play around, I thought maybe you were like jumping in the driver's seat and then throwing your hands up in the air and going, "Wee, we're having fun now."
Not quite. So I was actually on the shuttle about a half hour before that happened, and if you read the reports, actually, it was a semi that actually backed up into it, and there was actually a car behind the shuttle, so the shuttle really didn't have any place to go, didn't know how to react, doesn't have a horn on it, so it couldn't even notify the truck driver that it was backing into it. So that's kind of the scenario behind it.
Well, we know that autonomous vehicles are not foolproof, and they haven't even reached their full potential yet. But it just tells you that there's still this learning mechanism that's going to happen out there. But hey, I'm still a firm believer. I'd rather be having a computer that is in more control than my grandma driving down the road that hasn't had a license in 30 years and doesn't see very well and can't hear. So anyway,
yeah.
Well, that had to be kind of exciting, though, to be on that first shuttle ride.
Yeah, it was. The first people that were to ride on it were a bunch of dignitaries, of course, that came in, and it only holds 8 people. It's not like it's a large vehicle, but it runs a continuous route. And if people are familiar with downtown Vegas, from the edge of Fremont Street over to the Container Park is kind of the route that it runs, and it just does this 24/7. So it'll just be running back and forth, and it's an all-electric vehicle as well. So people who are interested in alternative fuel vehicles, it's pretty cool. Very quiet. I mean, yeah, I know you're a golfer, Dave, so you can kind of equate it to the sound of a golf cart as it's running down on the golf trail. So it's very quiet. It's very efficient. I know when I was taking some photos, I actually accidentally stepped into the crosswalk as it was coming towards me, just on the edge, and I wasn't even aware of it, but the vehicle actually stopped, and it was waiting for me, and one of the people that were in the shuttle at the time actually had to wave at me to move out of the way so that the tram could continue on. So it's very, very aware of its surroundings.
You're talking about golf and golf carts. Maybe the broadcast from that shuttle should have been 4. Everybody can identify that. Oh, we got to look out. There's something's coming at me.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
But it really is, though. It's the mark of kind of a new era of technology. I mean, the fact that we are actually moving into a space where vehicles are going to start driving themselves, and we actually have these in place. Uber made an announcement last week as well that they'll be deploying a flying car as part of its fleet in Las Vegas in 2020. I mean, that's 2.5, not even 2.5 years away. So it's amazing, and that'll be totally autonomous as well. So it's really amazing what's going on right now.
Yeah, I was reading up, too, on some this new car called Waymo or Whammo.
Yes, yep.
Google. And what's what's happening with that, and I think that you're going to see more and more of this stuff happening in the United States. But man, it's been happening in Europe for a while already, right?
Yeah, we're I don't want to say we're a little behind in the technology, because we really are at the forefront of the technology. It's just that we have a few more regulations to go through than maybe some other countries do. So some of these companies will test in other parts of the world just to make sure that their technology is solid before it comes here. Of course, we're the place where everybody wants to have their technology deployed, because we, of course, are a very mobile society and use our cars and transportation more than anybody else in the world. So they look at it from a monetization standpoint that, we want to be in this market, so that's why all this stuff is being developed and why things are moving so rapidly here in the United States.
And, interesting you talk about regulations, and, the problem we got in the United States is that we've got, 50 states, and all of them might have a little bit different regulations when it comes to autonomous vehicles. I know we've addressed that with the North Dakota Automated Vehicle Collaborative and trying to get things consistent when autonomous vehicles can go from one state to another and then eventually across borders into Canada or Mexico. But, the U.S. Department of Transportation is trying to put together something that's more uniform so that all states meet these requirements. Have you heard anything new on that development at all?
Well, you can, I'm just going to give you a different analogy here before I give you some new news in that department. But imagine what it was like in 1910 when roads are just starting to get developed and if a state were to say, all right, we need to have stop signs at these crossways, right? How are we going to do that? So they come up with a way, and the stop sign is rectangular and green, and then maybe that's in South Dakota, and then in Nevada it's octagonal shape and red, but the rectangle green one means go here, right? So then when you're from Nevada and you happen to be in North Dakota and you see that sign, you just think it means go, even though it means stop. So this is why it's so important as we move forward with this technology that we have uniform codes, on a federal level across the entire country, because different things could mean different things in different states. So with that said, so the federal government recently, the U.S. Department of Transportation, removed out of its code the word person when it comes to driving a vehicle. And what that means is that anybody, as long as or anything, as long as the car obeys the rules of the road, it doesn't matter if a person is driving it anymore. So That's probably the biggest news that's happened in the last couple of months.
That's pretty outstanding to understand that, because I know in North Dakota law prohibited if you had a autonomous vehicle, somebody had to be actually behind the steering wheel, and now that takes that equation out of that whole regulation. From what I understand, that U.S. law would supersede North Dakota law?
Yeah, that's the way it would be in every state, and the industry as a whole wants that too. They don't want to have to program 50 different scenarios or even more. I mean, you may even have local jurisdictions that want to have different rules and regulations. So rather than having to program all of that into each car, it's not impossible to do. It's just that, it just puts a lot more work on it. It would be the same as, and I know this is starting to happen on the internet, but if you go shopping on the internet, that you have to have every local, state, and federal tax, on the sales tax side of things. So, and every place would be different and all that other stuff. It's certainly possible, just adds another layer of difficulty to things.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to go. Too many times I think that we have so many regulations out there and everybody is, concerned about, well, if I'm in this state or that state, what is the law? And good example is, what you pay for a speeding ticket in Minnesota is going to differ than what you pay in North Dakota. And I can see that, and I've been nailed in Minnesota. It cost me a pretty penny, but that's interesting. I'm glad that the U.S. government now has really set the stage for that. So, hey, we'll be back with the Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson. It's weird, I think, you calling in here, but I'm glad you could. And we're going to be talking about land use planning a little bit for cities. And I know you've got a few other things you want to mention. So stay tuned for the Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson in sunny Las Vegas, and Rockin Dave in sunny Mandan.
Currently 35.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
Hello there, guys. We're back, and we've got Marlo sitting in sunny Vegas. I think it's sunny there. I'm just guessing, but Anyway, it's been an interesting week for you, like we talked about with first ride in this smart shuttle. But hey, what else is happening in the world according to Marlo?
Well, it's always interesting. I took a weekend trip over to Arizona, and as far as connected as we are in the world, there are always spots in the world that you are not connected. And I don't know if you've experienced this recently, but when you're not on the grid for a day or a day and a half, it's kind of unusual. Have you experienced that in the past?
No. Of course.
How about you, Jim? I mean, do you take time off from being connected to everybody in the world?
The last time I was off for more than a day, I think, was when I had my hernia surgery.
Oh, my goodness.
General anesthesia will kind of have that effect on you.
Yes.
You kind of lose interest in things.
Well, I guess I have one episode. It happened actually last night. We had a birthday party for my grandson, and all the relatives and every moms and grandpas and grandmas and aunts and uncles were over. So after 2.5 hours, I had enough. So I just went out and sat in the watch Shark Tank and just kind of dwelt. That's it.
Yep.
I've had enough. But no, to actually do a road trip, it sounds pretty exciting. So where did you go, and what did you really experience out there?
Oh, I was just there's a little ghost town called Jerome, Arizona, in the mountains, and went to check out some of the cliff dwellers, that lived in that area back, a few hundred to a few thousand years ago. So that was interesting. And then I was also in the town where Route 66 got its start from back almost a century ago now. Oh my goodness, that's amazing actually. But that was interesting as well. But what I found interesting too is that and I looked this up this morning because, like I said, I was off the grid for a day and a half. The average person actually checks their phone over 120 times a day.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because
you don't want to miss something out there,
even
right?
Even though I knew I was not in an area that I had service, I still caught myself checking the device, So it is a habit that we all have.
Yeah, I'm getting better and better into just shutting my phone off and putting it away. I got caught up one time at church where I didn't shut it off, and it rang, and the minister, who is a friend of mine, looked at me and said, "Dave." So I think it's all right to put that chatterbox away in your pocket every once in a while.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to do actually. So. And speaking of smart cities, you were talking about that early in the show, and of course, autonomous vehicles. There's a lot of debate in that arena where how smart the city will have to be for autonomous vehicles to thrive in them. And I'm not sure if a bunch of sensors in a city will help with the autonomous vehicle situation, but of course, sensors in cities help with many other things.
Yep.
Whether it's going to be for better energy management, traffic signal control. I mean, that to me is going to be exciting to see because, some of the newer technologies you can buy now in your car will tell you how long you have until the light turns green in front of you. So, whether it's 15 seconds or 3 seconds or a minute and a half, you kind of have this countdown feature going on if the light has that technology built into it. So, I'm just using that as one example of, do you have time to check on the kids in the back because the light, got 15 or 20 seconds left before it changes or what have you. So, and it might even be a possibility sometime in the future. Microsoft is working on this where if it senses that no vehicles are coming from any of the directions, it'll change the time on your signal because we've all been caught on this before where you sit there for a minute and a half waiting for the left signal to turn and there's nobody coming. It's clear everywhere and you're the only vehicle in the intersection. And I know a lot of people just run the red light when that happens, So it would be nice to be able to do that legally because the light will change for you.
Well, I'm one of those guys that just says, I'm going. I don't care. So far, I haven't been caught. But anyway, I know I'm breaking the law, so shame on you, Dave. Hey, one of the other things that's interesting about smart cities is this land use planning, and I know Bismarck's working on that. I know Mandan is as well. But, the plan, involves studies and impacts, utilizing many different sources of data that are sourced out there. And, land use planning is ripe to become more smarter through the use of real-time and accurate data produced by smart city technologies. And have you ever heard of, imagine the game called Sim City being real for a city? Yeah. Well, we're there, and I know that part of the planning for cities now is to look at the future, and especially when it comes to new roads and bridges and that whole infrastructure, and collecting that. And so we're going to continue to see that happening. You mentioned briefly about services from garbage collection to health and human services. Cities spend significant funds on finding basic functions for citizens. And the vendors are making garbage collection smarter by installing sensors on garbage cans to better optimize collection. In fact, maybe the next time I'm on, I'll talk a little bit about some of the new technologies out there for water management, for street lighting, which is huge, and then obviously data collection for garbage pickups and that kind of stuff. So lots of cool things happening there in this whole concept of smart cities.
And I would certainly, if you're a city planner or somebody who is doing work with that as far as planning, a new development or whatever, I think you really need to look at smart technologies, because do we really need another parking ramp, for example? Because vehicles in the future, more and more people are using ride-sharing services. Your vehicle's going to go park itself, or just go home, or be tasked to do something else. Maybe you're, going downtown for lunch, and your kid's got to be picked up from the school, so your car's going to go do that. It won't need to be parked all the time, So I think you need to really reevaluate those things. And I know even Governor Burgum, when he talks a lot about free parking on city streets, well, when we build new streets in the future, do we really need to even have parking? Maybe we just need to have, pick-up drop-off areas where vehicles can come in and, like a loading zone type of scenario. And that significantly reduces the cost of building highway or city roads, I should say. So just things to think about,
One of the things that we've discussed is, where the state is on this Wi-Fi zone. And in Kansas City, they just invested $7 million for this free Wi-Fi zone around coming a 2.5 mile streetcar route. And I think you're going to see more and more of that happening, as this whole Wi-Fi. I know as in Bangalore, India, probably 6 years ago, and we're riding around in a car, and the gentleman I'm riding with has got internet. And he said, yeah, the whole city of Bangalore has Wi-Fi internet. So
wow,
that's coming as well. So we're definitely on a mode for quick change, and what that's going to mean is lots of things that are going to speed up how we do things.
There are some American cities that are talking about doing that, that have been talking about doing that, about just basically doing the Wi-Fi thing for the whole town.
Well, I think, Jim, I think actually even in our neck of the woods there was some talk. I know Moorhead, Minnesota was actually delivering that one time, and it would be a public utility,
right,
as opposed to, a company that offers it, yeah.
How viable is that with the current technology?
It's very viable, actually.
Okay, it can be done.
It's a matter of, does the government want to take on private enterprise? That's probably the bigger deal there, right?
I see.
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, we've talked about that even with the DCN network and looking at doing that statewide. And, part of our initiative, too, with North Dakota Automated Vehicle Collaborative is creating this Wi-Fi highway, but I guess we can't use it anymore. So we've got a new name, don't we? Was it Gigabit Highway or something like that?
Gigabit Highway, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. But, it's going to have to be industry and government working together collectively. Those collaboratives are so important. And I guess that's why we formed this collaborative, too, is to bring in industry and government together so everybody's kind of on the same page and everybody can be sharing data. They can be sharing expenses, all of the above. So, yes, we're North Dakota definitely is not lagging behind by any means in a lot of this new technology. Don't you agree?
Yeah, North Dakota leads the way in many technologies. The wonderful thing we have is of course, we have a great energy sector, we have a great ag sector, and innovation has always been part of both of those industries and has led the way in many great innovations that we use daily in our lives now. So I don't expect that to change at all.
I agree. Hey, when I come back for the last segment, there was some news about this new smart city that Bill Gates is proposing. I don't know if you've heard that or not, Marlo, but I'm going to keep you on pins and needles when I talk about that. Hey, we're closing down the last segment of Tech Ranch. This is Rockin Dave Blair with you. We cut off Marlo. We said we had enough. Said go back and put some money in the coins in the machines, and good luck. No, it's been interesting as I've done some research on the smart cities, and I hope Marlo will have me back and talk a lot more about that and what that really means. I've got a friend of mine out in L.A. too that is heading up initiatives doing tracking with smart cities, about 70 different smart cities across the world. And was going to try to get him on this morning, but he's flying off someplace, so we'll bring him back. His name is Matt Peak. But this morning I was driving over here, and I said the timing was perfect. They were talking about this new smart city that Bill Gates wants to erect in Arizona. And I'm always wondering, okay, how do they make these decisions? But it's a 25,000 square mile footprint that is going to cost about $80 million to build. And it's going to take all the new technologies possible, including autonomous vehicles and possibly autonomous flying cars. But everything that we've talked a little bit about with sensors in the roads and street lighting and garbage pickup, all of the newest things. So stay tuned for that. It'll be interesting to see what Bill has in mind. Another one of those opportunities for somebody to get involved and really take advantage of somebody like Bill Gates' money to make a difference, hopefully, out there. But, one of the other things that I've been trying to understand a little bit more is about the whole communications and what that means. And there's this new program called FlexNet Communication Network by Vantage Point, and it gives you more benefits than mesh or cellular or even power line communications. FlexNet uses a private communication channel that offers low data latency, high security, and faster speed and greater reliability. It's a utility-grade communication network that powers critical applications for your smart city. And I haven't heard of that, but how about you, Jim? Have you heard of this new FlexNet Communications Network?
FlexNet. It sounds like Flubber. Remember Flubber?
Yeah.
Fred McMurray.
Hey, I'll tell you what, isn't it funny hearing all these new names coming up? I think Flubber has a place in this place.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, I think
it's probably a nickname for something. We'll have to get out the old Urban Dictionary. First thing, got to make sure it's something that's airable, on the broadcast wave.
Exactly.
Contemporary community standards. And
yeah. So actually, this FlexNet is a mesh network that's unlicensed spectrum, which means you are competing with others for the same broadwidth. And Nextflick and Vantage Point provide a better alternative, is what they're saying. And the other thing is the redundancy of competitive networks. each base station designed with an overlapping coverage to provide redundancy if needed. The other thing is it requires only about 5% of the infrastructure build-out when compared to mesh. So 5 FlexNet base stations can cover up to 20,000 endpoints. With mesh, the operator would need to install 50 collectors to cover 15,000 endpoints. So some cool things happening, and we're talking about the serious of the grid security too. And by using private communications bands, system operators are more secure. They offer two-way encrypted communications to all devices and rely on AES 256 encryption protocol. It's also Achilles Communications certified. So I think you're going to be hearing more about this Flex Net offers and what they're going to be doing. One of the things that was kind of interesting is that dedicated data flow means low noise. Mesh shares spectrums for everything from baby monitors or garage door openers. And with a cellular solution, you face peak use periods. NextFlix allows for prioritizing of mission critical data and alarms getting priority. So stay tuned for the new news on NextFlix and what that, or FlexNIC and what that means. I'm just going to switch subjects here before we close out. And a couple weeks ago, we had a conference here in Bismarck called Disrupt Well, and Mayor Seminary hosted it. And I thought he did an awesome job of getting some really, really critical and smart thinking people on the panels, and Marlo, our own Marlo Anderson, Guru Geek, was one of them. But one of the things that I was reading some information about what's happening in the big world of the top 100 CEOs. They just had a meeting to discuss the future of their companies, and it was interesting. It was containing 17 different industries, representing $2 trillion in revenues. And one of the persons that was speaking at this was Gina Rompney, who's CEO of IBM. And, you know, one of the things that she talked about was, you know, what's happening in technology. Unlike the last, it's going to provide an advantage to legacy companies over digital startups. I believe this is now the moment for incumbent companies. She said, you can go on the offense. You can be the disruptor instead of disrupted. Many of the participating companies seemed to share her optimism, and a few provided stories on how they were doing just that. The basis for their optimism, Rompney posted that the first phase of the digital revolution favored a small number of platform giants that benefited from the network effect. The next phase is not about the network alone, but also about the knowledge. And we just talked a little bit about FlexNet and that whole network that she said will depend on the priority data as well as the expertise in the hands of companies like those in the room, those who use it wisely with the help of all will win. IBM, John went to interview with 100 prior to the event and gave a summary of some of the shared insights. The company believes their company's core experience is the most important, most relevant than ever. Technology empowers the enterprise. Data has become the most powerful asset. Through the turning of that data into intelligence is a critical challenge. And almost all of them are either building or participating in platforms which are vital to the future. Finally, the CEO has echoed a point I've heard repeatedly in the last few years. This comes from Alan Murray, who wrote the article here in The View, that the biggest problem they face is not technology, but rather creating a culture that can embrace and adapt to technological change. As I want to summarize their view, culture is the number one impediment. culture moves in a linear way. Technology moves in an exponential way, and I think that's so true. Is how are citizens, how is the community, how is government going to embrace or understand this new technology, and they're going to handle it, just like the autonomous vehicles out there. What does that mean? Or the cars that fly themselves. So be prepared for some of the challenges that we have coming up. And last but not least, this article was in Time magazine, and I thought it was pretty cool. Should texting and walking be illegal? What do you think? What do you think, Jim? I'm having trouble chewing gum. Yeah. On October 25th, Honolulu became the first major American city to make it illegal to text or look down at any electronic device while crossing the street. The hope is to help solve the growing and unanswered scourge distracted walking. The problem has been apparent for years. A 2013 study found that more than 1,500 pedestrians were treated in hospitals in 2010 for injuries related to walking with a mobile device, exceeding those hospitalized because of distracted driving. Though 9.1% were texting, while 69% were talking. That does not include those who refused treatment or died. The expected overall total is much higher. In 2011, legislators in Rexburg, Idaho passed an ordinance similar to Honolulu's, even though the measure in Illinois is different. So watch out when you're out there. Pedestrians, keep your heads up. This is Dave Blair, or Rockin Dave, saying I'm going to keep my head up when I'm driving because I know there's people texting out there. Always. God bless you. Have a great week.